Well, folks, I had a little accident the other day. This is one of my little generators, and if you can see there, it's just a little bit smushed. So I moved it out of the way, apparently not far enough, and got distracted, and I ran into it with the telehandler. And you can see the top there's a little smushed. The front panel is smushed. The plastic's a little bit dented and smushed here. The side panel popped out. This is the top panel popped out. I can see the control board here is smushed back. It's got a little break of the bracket on the side. Some wires here were ripped out. Looks like a motor mount down there might be broken. The carburetor here was smushed back, so all this on the carburetor, throttle smushed back. So what we're gonna have to do is take this thing apart and see if we can repair it one step at a time. We'll assess the damage, see if we got to order parts or if we can even fix it. Okay folks, so I got this generator all tore apart, trying to assess how bad the damage is. So, you know, a lot of minor things. The two motor mounts on this side are both broke. And no big deal really, because they're $1.39 each, so no big deal. And then the stepping motor on the carburetor, that goes for self-adjusting the throttle, and those wires were all ripped out from this plug. So I mean, I could probably figure out the wiring and fix that, but in all honesty, it's $4.72 for a new stepping motor, which will come with the plug already on it. So it's really not worth messing with for that small amount of money. And let's see, so this right here is a LED display module, and this controls the LEDs for low oil, power overload, and the green light saying everything's good. So they plug into this module. Unfortunately, if you look close here at the module, you can see it's got a big dent in this capacitor. Now, the problem with that is you never know when a capacitor is dented if it's going to work or not. You could plug it in and it could work just fine, and then a few hours later it could fail. Or you could plug it in and it could be shorted, and if it's shorted, that could do further damage to other stuff. So, you know, for the price, this LED display module was $8.88. So again, pretty cheap, easier to just replace it. So then we get into some of the other items. So on this display board over here, I mean, this thing is all bent up, which, you know, I could take everything off of it and flatten it out and it'd be just fine. But when you start looking at the pieces of it, here's the electrical outlet, and you can see it's all busted up. So for a new electrical outlet, that was about $6. And then you've got this 20 amp breaker, push button breaker, and it's got some plastic busted off of it. And to replace that 20 amp push button breaker is $2.41. So even though it's probably still good, and I could probably put some electrical tape around that and it'd be just fine, I'd rather just replace it for that price. Once I got into looking at this thing, you can buy this whole board with everything on it for 40 bucks. So, you know, can replace a couple of parts cheap, or you can just spend 40 bucks and buy the whole thing. Not sure what I'm going to do yet. I may take the easy route because there's a lot of wiring and stuff with this and just buy the whole thing. We'll see. I'll have to talk to them and make sure that that's exactly what it is and it's not 40 bucks for just this metal piece, which doesn't seem logical based on the other prices. This plastic piece here is bent. I'm pretty confident I can heat that up a bit and straighten it, so I'm not going to replace that. And then we get into the big stuff. So unfortunately, this right here is the main control board inverter. So this is what basically takes the DC power, turns it into AC power. I mean, this is the whole brains of the generator, and it creates the power. So this is probably the most important part of the whole generator. And you can see right here, this capacitor got smushed a bit. It's got a dent in it. And this one here, all the insulation or whatever got smushed off of it. So could probably look up the numbers, get a capacitor, grind this out, replace it. I don't know, that's maybe a bit above my technical skills. I also busted the housing mounts, which could probably be fixed with some JB weld, put it back together. And the truth is, with just that dent, now this, the cover and coating probably isn't going to affect the capacitor, but this here, that dent, again, we get into the same scenario. You don't know. You could plug it in, everything could work fine, and then in a few hours it could fail. You could plug it in, it could work fine forever. You could plug it in and it could be shorted and it could fry all kind of stuff and ruin your whole machine. So personally, I think the best option is to replace it. Unfortunately, this is a $200 part. So this is the most expensive piece of the machine at $200. Everything else, you know, pretty cheap. A few dollars here, a few dollars there. It adds up. I think if I bought everything, it's less than 300 bucks. So I'm probably going to fix it. So why would I spend, you know, 250 to 300 bucks on a generator that I've already put hundreds of hours on? Well, so the engine is still good. I mean, it starts first pull, no problem, runs great, runs for hours. The oil's always clean when I change it, so it really has no issues other than the issues I just created. Now you can see right here the carburetor. That's a like overflow vent line or something that drains out. That got a little bit smushed. This got a little bit smushed and now it's kind of loose, so probably best to replace the carburetor also, which is $17.79. So yeah, probably gonna go ahead and do that too while I'm at it. These carburetors get gummed up anyway from the cheap fuel we use nowadays. And you know, other than that, everything's fine. So, you know, is it worth it to spend, you know, $250 to $300? It'll be less than $300 to repair this generator. Like I say, it runs and works great. I have another one just like it. and I can run them parallel. I have the equipment to tie them together parallel. So, you know, I could spend the money and buy a bigger one, which if I was going to upgrade to the next, not the next size, but to a bigger inverter generator, you know, I would probably get a 4,000 watt and still be able to parallel link it with my other 2,000 watt. And of course I would probably upgrade and get the remote control and everything, start with remote control, but you know, that's, you're talking $1,000. So to take a few $100s and reinvest it into $1,000, that's still $800 that I'd spend extra. So timing wise, you know, I'm putting all my money into the shop right now, so I'm not going to go there. So that's a no-go. So basically it comes down to fix it or not. If you don't fix it, you just save it for parts. But this is a great generator. It runs great. Like I say, it works great. I love it. It's light, it's portable, it's quiet. So yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and fix it. If I were to buy a new one of these, a new one would cost me at least $450. Now that's waiting until I think 4th of July weekend. Tractor Supply does a military discount, and I want to say 10 or 15%. And so let's just say 10% off. This is normally, I think they sell it now for $460. $460, so 10% is still a little over 400 bucks. So anyway you look at it, 400 bucks. You know, if it's a better discount, maybe 300 and something. But let's even say it's 350 versus say 250 for parts. That's still $100 savings. So I think I'm just going to fix what I got and move on. It's unfortunate, you know. I mean, this, I'll blame it partly on fatigue. You get tired, you're not paying attention as much. I moved this thing out of the way and thought it was far enough out of the way, but I was really focused on getting my welder up on top of my container, and you know, I turned too far to the left, and by the time I saw it, I was already, you know, smushing the generator. So is what it is, you know. Old Murphy strikes again. But the good news is we can fix it. We got the know-how, and we've got a lot of experience working on this generator. Taking it apart, putting it back together. Last time we replaced the recoil, so the pull rope, and that required us to take it apart pretty good. So that's what we did again. We've assessed all our damage. We know what parts we need, so I think I'm going to go ahead and order the parts. So that's where we're at. Stick with us. Let's see how it goes. Alright, so our parts arrived. So we got the new motor mounts. That'll replace these busted ones. And probably the coolest thing was this panel. So this was the $40 part, and the good news is that it came completely intact. So all the wiring and everything, which saves us a bunch of work. So yes, I could have probably bought just a couple of broken parts for $10 to $15. Instead I paid $40 for the whole assembly. But like I say, the key is that it comes with all the wiring already done and everything. And of course this faceplate, you know, so this thing is pretty trashed. Yes, I could have pounded it out flat, but I would have had to remove all of these parts and pieces, all the wiring, everything, and then pound this flat and then put everything back together. So I think in the end I'm happier spending the, you know, $30 extra to save the time and effort, and of course having this brand new panel works out. Be much easier. We also got the new control board. This was the the big money expenditure, the $200 part, but it is what it is. You know, this piece here was smashed, you can see on that one there, and both of these capacitors, you know, are dented in the front, so no telling if it would work or not. Just better to replace it. And then of course this LED module, the capacitor on that is smashed, and here's the replacement. So anyway, we got the parts, so now we start to reassemble. Okay, so this thing's coming back together pretty well. We put on the new carburetor, new step motor, the whole front panel. We did heat this up with a heat gun and soften the plastic a little bit and kind of reshaped that to get it back to, you know, close. It's not perfect, but close to how it goes. We're doing all the wiring now, and the cool thing about the wiring on this is all the plugs are unique. So all these wire sets that have these white plugs on them, the white plugs are all unique. So there's no way to mess that up. There's only one way it can go. And the wires that aren't unique, like this one right here, there's I think 3 or 4 of these type plugs, but all the wires are color matched. So again, very simple to wire it back up. So all we're doing now is just putting everything back together, making sure all our wires are connected. We'll get some of these wires tied down and everything routed good, and then we'll start putting the panels back on and get this thing back together, throw some fuel in it, and make sure everything works good. But so far everything's going well. Alright, so I've got it almost all the way back together. Doesn't look too bad. Got a little bit of plastic separation right here. Of course, you know, we worked on this, so it's not perfect, but I do notice we've got a bend and a crack right here. So I'm gonna heat that up a little bit, see if we can relax that plastic, push it out a little, and at least see if we can get that dent out of there and make it shape a little bit better than that. But other than that, it all looks pretty good. Everything went back together like it should. Everything looks good on the inside. We just have to fix that one little spot, throw the panel back on, and then she'll be ready to test. Okay, we used the heat gun, warmed it up a bit, and you can see that dent pretty much popped out, relaxed the plastic a bit. It did get a little bit warm and this crack melted a little bit, but I don't think it's a problem. If it ever does start to spread or become a problem, we can always do a plastic weld there. So not worried about it. Bottom line is it all came back together. Everything looks fine. Like I say, really the only big residual thing is this crack right here where these two pieces come together. I don't know why, but they didn't pull back together good, but it's not a big deal. It's just cosmetic. Then of course all the other things I showed are just cosmetic. As far as functionality, we should be back to 100%. Should be able to throw some fuel in it, start it up, and everything should work just like it's supposed to. So we'll see what happens. I've got to go to the bank and take out a second mortgage on the house so I can buy some fuel and try this thing out. Alright, we've fueled it up. Now we're going to see if it'll start. Okay, so started up. It took a couple pulls. That's just because we had drained all the fuel out, so we had to get some fuel through the system. But pretty much started right up. It's running like it always ran. The automatic idle seems to work fine. Revs up, idles down. So let me put a load on it and see how it does. Alright, so I just grabbed a little hand grinder here. Let's see what happens. I've got it in the idle down position, so it should automatically idle up and respond to the draw, and it should have no problem running this at all. Here we go. Well, that seemed to work just fine. Well, folks, I'm going to call that a successful repair. Looks like it's working just fine, doing what it should do. So, you know, 275 bucks. Unfortunate accident, but we got her back into service, and it is what it is. The good thing is it all works fine, and we'll continue using it. So as always, folks, we appreciate you watching our videos and supporting our channel. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe, and stick around to see what we're gonna do next. Because you know, on the homestead, we do just a little bit of everything. Anyway, as always, folks, God bless, take care. We'll see you on the next one.